this woman came out of her building and she had just been broken up with, was in a really difficult place, and she was finding it really difficult to make connections and really find her place in the city. And then she came outside and there was this love letter tied to her bike. And she stayed in the city, and turns out this woman is a phenomenal, incredible force in this city.
That is Lindsay Zier-Vogel talking about her amazing project, the Love Lettering Project. And this is Tiny Conversations. I'm Brian Colley. The Love Lettering Project is this amazing initiative started by Lindsay 10 years ago. The basic idea is people write letters about something they love and they leave it for someone else to find. I think this project is amazing and really touches on the idea of unexpected moments. I wanted to know more about the Love Lettering Project and why it started, so I contacted Lindsay and we met in the park where it all started, Trinity Bellwoods Park in Toronto. Here's that conversation. The Love Lettering Project. What is it?
The Love Lettering Project is a community engagement project that gets people thinking and talking about what they love about where they live. I ask other people to write letters to things they love about their city, and I get them to hide their letters themselves. Once upon a time, I just did it. But then one year I decided to do 500 of these, and it was a lot more than I kind of anticipated how much work would have to go into them. So I crowdsourced a bunch of what other people loved about the city. So I'd be with friends, and we were in Trinity Bellwoods Park, and we tied them to a tree over there. And a friend was with me, and she said, she's like, "This is so much fun. I love this more than anything. Like, okay, when's the next time you're going to deliver letters? Like, I want to come." And I realized that there was something much bigger about the project, that it wasn't just about coming up with something you loved about the city, but the actual act of hiding a letter for a stranger to find actually had a lot more power.
Why did you decide to start doing this?
I was sitting in this very park with my friend Raya Tamashevskis. We were both writers. And this was 10 years ago, actually, which seems like forever ago. And we were writing love poems. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we just put them in envelopes and just hid them? Like, it was just a summer afternoon in the park. We both happened to have envelopes and craft supplies in our bags, as one does 10 years ago. And we had these airmail envelopes. So we just wrote the word love on the outside, and we just walked along Queen Street and hid them for people. And it was remarkably fun. Like, I still remember the joy of that day of, putting them under cherries, and there was a payphone at the corner that is no longer there, and we, slid them between the receiver and the sort of where you hang it up. And there was just something so simple about it. There was so much fun. There was something so powerful about the who's going to find it. Like, how will it intersect with their day? Will it make them elated? Will they overlook it? It kind of didn't matter. There was all this potential in what we left behind. So the next year I was in grad school, and it was February, which is a fairly dreary month in this fair city. And I was spending way too much time at Robarts Library, which is a fairly dreary building in my estimation. And so I realized that I needed to change around where my headspace was at. So I got people to send me books that they loved or books that they thought needed love. And I wrote love poems to all of these books, and then I went tiptoeing through the stacks in Robarts and hid all of these letters in these books. And there was, again, something so thrilling about who's going to find it, maybe a depressed grad student like myself, or, just not knowing how it was going to be received and not needing to follow up with it. Just sort of putting some art out into the world without really needing or requiring anything back from it.
When you're writing these letters, what are you thinking about?
I think it's important, especially for me, probably for a lot of people, to remember what works in a city, that when it's really easy to think about what doesn't work in a city. It's really easy to complain about the streetcar and the condition of the roads, et cetera, et cetera. And shifting that perspective to something that does work and something that I do love about the city, it's a really powerful shift.
I love this idea of leaving something and not expecting anything back. Why do you think that's so fulfilling?
It's fulfilling for me because with most things that I put out in the world, I do expect something back. I mean, maybe not exactly what I put out there, but how do I phrase this? Like, so I'm a writer. So when I send writing out, I hope it's an acceptance, and if not, it's feedback back. You know, there's this sort of exchange that comes back and forth, and you know, I'm always hoping for an acceptance, and there's always this like a bit of anxiety around like how's my work going to be received. So to take that piece out of the equation and to just create something without that. I wouldn't say it's this sort of full-blown anxiety, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. But, you know, without having this expectation or this need to have sort of anything in return is quite liberating in a way that I don't really have that in most other aspects of my life. Usually there's sort of an audience and a give and take, and there's that sort of exchange. It's really fun to just throw something out there in the world.
You're somewhat known now from this project, but when you weren't, like when you know, people were discovering these, but you had no idea that people were discovering them, what did that feel like? I guess I'm wondering the difference between anonymity and sort of being known. Hopefully
there is that element of complete surprise, and the element of, you know, wow, this isn't a piece of marketing material. This isn't a, you know, go to this website and get a free can of pop or something like that. Like that it is just an exchange without, or a gift without the need for exchange. And every time that I do receive any sort of feedback back, about this love lettering project, I still feel like totally amazed and delighted at any given point. Like in this park, I'd filled this tree with love letters, and I came back maybe 2 days afterwards, and someone had taken out the letters that I had written and written their own letters and filled the envelopes that were hanging on this tree with their own letters. And like to this day, it just gives me goosebumps to think that someone decided that that's what they wanted to do. When one year I tied them to bikes. I tied love letters to bikes because I thought bikes needed a bit more love in the city. And this woman came out of a building, I don't know where I had tied this letter to, and she had just been broken up with, was in a really difficult place. She had just moved from Vancouver. She was an architect, and she was finding it really difficult to make connections and really find her place in the city. And she was really contemplating moving back to Vancouver. She was like, I don't know about this city. Like, ugh. And then she came outside, and there was this love letter tied to her bike. And she had no idea who it was, and had this, you know, whole tale or story or fantasy in her head about who maybe did it. And she stayed in the city. And turns out this woman is a phenomenal, incredible force in this city. Her name is Zara Ibrahim. And for years, I didn't know about her until I chatted about this project on CBC, and she heard it and found me, and now we're the dearest of friends. And there was something about, I don't know whether for her, you know, there was maybe a moment of letdown when she found out who actually had done it, but maybe the upside of it is that we connect, and we have such a great connection that was sort of founded on this moment that didn't even happen with us both being there, which is kind of fun.
So I asked you about, on your side, the idea of giving something without expecting anything in return. Do you think at all about the people who would be receiving these letters? I mean, you obviously know some of them, but when you're putting them out there, do you think about the people on the other side?
I love thinking about that. That's probably what motivates me to continue this project, because I write fiction. There's nothing I love more than making up people in my head. You know, I love imagining, you know, someone like Zara who had just had their heart broken, and then to be reminded of the goodness, not necessarily of people, though there's lots of that too, but of the place that you live in. I don't think we always connect with the goodness in the places that we live. I was in New York City, and I tied love letters to a tree in Central Park, and my mom was with me, and she was so obsessed with like spying on whoever took them and wanting to talk to them, and I just hightailed it out of there. I ran away, but she was so, and I get it. I get the impulse to want to know where the story goes, but for me, it's the not knowing where the story goes that has more power than knowing where it goes.
Have you ever been on the receiving end of an anonymous gift?
This isn't a gift necessarily, though the moment was a gift. I was in New York again. I think it was the same trip that I was there with my mom and sister, and we were at some intersection, and there was this bike that had been entirely crocheted. So it had like a baby seat and pedals, and like the entire bike had been crocheted, and it literally stopped me in my tracks. And I remember everything about that intersection because this thing completely stopped me in my tracks because it was beautiful and it was huge and it was like it just took up so much space without actually taking up a lot of physical space. So that's always what I sort of think of when I think of that sort of gift that sort of interrupted where I was going and what I was thinking about.
What that is, like, even if we don't admit it, we need those moments. We need to discover these things. So maybe you have a thought. Why do you think we need unexpected discoveries?
I don't know about everybody, but I am a huge person of routine. I have so much routine in my life, and I love it. It's how I function. It's how I give myself time to be creative. And I need to be interrupted from that. I need to have to stop and wonder why something is chalked on the sidewalk or why, a bike is crocheted in the middle of the sidewalk in New York. Like, I almost need to be interrupted. Otherwise, it's really easy to just continue along my path, to, take the same route home, to really keep everything in my life very same.
If you want to learn more about the Love Lettering Project and Lindsay and her amazing initiatives, head to loveletteringproject.com. That link will be up on our site as well, tinyconversations.com. But you don't need a project or an initiative or even anyone's permission to leave an unexpected gift for someone else to find. Be it a letter, a craft, anything you want. Go out, do it right now. You will feel incredible. And I know I feel incredible every time I make one of these podcasts for you to listen to. If you enjoy listening to Tiny Conversations, if you've enjoyed this episode, please tell someone about it. Get them to subscribe in iTunes. I want to share this with as many people as possible. Oh, and our amazing theme music is by Broke for Free. And you can reach me on Twitter @BrianCauley. Thanks for listening.